All right, well, don't worry about tonight. Randy Johnson, I'm sure, is going to be okay for tonight. On a serious note, I see a lot of times folks will have their dogs out and they'll be tied to a parking meter or to a post.
Right.
And most of them well-meaning dog owners, but you'll see that maybe they stayed a little long, the dog's a little hungry, a little thirsty for sure, he's in the sunlight. Things to watch out for, even if you're a good dog owner.
The main concern in what you were just mentioning is the shade.
Right.
Of course, it's very important for the dog not to go without water for too long in the heat, but even more important when you're tying your dog up outside for a brief period is that the dog has to have access to shade. In general, it's just not a good idea to tie a dog up on the hot sidewalk because not only is it hot from the sun coming down, but the asphalt can even burn their feet.
Yeah. I think it was last summer we did a story on a police officer who had seen a dog in the back of a car, same situation, and he broke the windows out because he could see that the dog was suffering inside. We forget about some of these things sometimes.
I think what people don't realize about cars is, number one, how quickly the temperature can rise, and number two, how hot it can get even on days that you don't think are so hot. One example would be that even on a day that's 72 degrees, which doesn't sound that hot to us, especially these days with the temperature up in the 90s, the temperature inside a car can get up to 117 degrees on a 72-degree day. So you can imagine on the day in the 90s, temperatures in the car can reach up to 200 degrees.
And you get the black seats or the that's not good, the vinyl that it just soaks that heat up.
And people think that cracking the car windows makes a difference, and they've done studies that have shown, for children and for pets, cracking the windows doesn't really make any difference at all.
Really?
The bottom line is the dog just shouldn't be left in the car. It can heat up in just a few minutes to life-threatening temperatures.
The things that aren't so obvious, I would hope as good dog owners people would know about the cars and about the sidewalks.
Right.
But what are some of the other things that maybe we don't know about?
Well, one of the major misconceptions that's very important in the New York area are that people don't realize that cats can very easily fall or jump out of windows. For some reason, people think that cats have really good instincts, that if you have your window open, they're going to somehow know that it's dangerous to fall out that window or to sit on the windowsill, and that's just not true. Basically, in the summer in New York, it's an epidemic. We have cats that come into the hospital every day. Last Saturday, we had 3 cats that came in, all had fallen out of windows of apartment buildings.
Wow.
And it's very often fatal, unfortunately. So what people need to realize, number one, is that the window guards that are used for children do not help cats. Cats can slip right through those. The best thing to do is to go and buy those temporary accordion-type screens. You can get them at any hardware store, any of the sort of home improvement stores. Those are very inexpensive. You can just pop them in the window.
And make sure they're secure, too. Because
make sure they're nice and secure. Yep, but I think, because in New York City there's not a lot of bugs, most of the apartments don't have screens, and so people just open the window and the weather gets hot and the cat falls out.
What does a cat attract? I mean, not to be ignorant here, but what does a cat attract to? Things that are going on outside?
Nobody knows. Probably birds. If you think about it, when cats were evolving, there was nothing that high. So people think, well, cats know about heights. Cats are okay, with heights. They climb up trees. But nothing in a cat's brain was prepared for 2 stories, 5 stories, 40 stories. They just don't realize how high up they are. If they see a bird flying by, they might think, hey, I'm going to jump and catch that bird. Some other kind of a noise. And in addition, if you think about it, if a cat's perched up in a tree, they can cling to the bark with their claws. But a concrete windowsill or a metal windowsill, there's nothing for them to cling to, and they'll just lean over to take a look and slip and fall right down.
There was a question, we were just talking about seeing dogs or cats abused. It's something that we see occasionally as the public. We can call you. We can say, hey, listen, this is what we saw, this is what, we can report folks that are not, and now it's a felony if you do it to your dog or cat and they die.
Absolutely. If you see someone actively abusing an animal or an animal that you think is in a dangerous situation, left in a backyard without enough water, without enough shade, call us. Our officers will come right away and help investigate the situation. If there's no problem, it doesn't hurt to take a look and make sure that the animal is safe. And a lot of animals are saved by people paying attention and caring enough to call.
And a lot of folks can volunteer to work with you as well in the ASCPA.
Yes, we love if people want to volunteer, give us a call.
How do they just get on the? You have a website too as well, and
we have a website. It's www.aspca.org, and it has information not only about volunteering, but about some of these dangers we're talking about, this summer heat. Other dangers would be things like antifreeze, which is used as a coolant. People don't realize how toxic that is. You see those little green puddles under cars, in the garage, in the driveway.
Think about that,
Even a couple little licks of that can cause the animals to go into kidney failure. So that's something to worry about. Other things to worry about in the summer are things like lawn products.
Pesticides, I'm sure.
Yeah, some of the lawn products people use, they love to have this beautiful green lawn, want to make sure you've got the best lawn in the neighborhood. It's been shown that those products can cause several different kinds of cancer in animals. So of course you hate to think what they're doing to our children and to our, our neighbors, but in terms of the pets, they're right there walking on the grass, licking their paws, maybe drinking from a puddle. It's more important for your pet to be healthy than to worry about having the most perfect lawn in the neighborhood.
This past week we also saw mosquito spraying begin. What do we know about that as far as for a lot of the folks that live on Long Island and places like that, they're going to see mosquito spraying?
Well, any kind of pesticides that they're warning people to avoid, the same thing would hold for your pet. So if they're spraying and they're telling people to avoid that area for a certain number of days, you want to be especially careful about your pet, since of course in some ways they're even in more danger, like we were talking about. They'll lick their paws, they'll lick the puddle. They don't know to avoid things. The mosquitoes also pose a danger to dogs because of heartworm disease, which is passed by mosquitoes. So another thing we like to remind people in the summer is to make sure their dog has been tested for heartworm and is on a monthly preventative. Another misconception, especially in the city area, is that people think that dogs in New York City wouldn't get heartworm disease. It's actually not true. We see little dogs like Gucci here with heartworm disease because the people thought, well, if he's never leaving the city, he can't get heartworm disease, which just isn't true.
Right. And they can go on your website and find some of the do's and don'ts as well for folks that...
All this information is on our website. It's very easy to navigate. There's areas for poison control, some of these toxins we've been talking about, areas for questions that are, veterinary related, cruelty questions, how to contact the law enforcement agents for the cruelty problems. So all this information is on our website.
Dynamite. Well, and thank you for bringing by Gucci as well.
Gucci's very glad to be here. He's getting a little sleepy.
Yes.
Taking his nap.
I'm about that way too right about now.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Your favorite furry friends can sometimes be an armful. Joining us this morning to give us tips on the do's and don'ts of holiday pet care. Along with Oliver here is his human companion for the day, veterinarian Louise Murray of the ASPCA. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for coming here. And animals enjoy the well, I shouldn't generalize, because cats don't really like.
They don't like a lot of strangers in the house.
They don't like their routine to be broken. Dogs generally like the excitement of it.
Have a great time.
But it can be dangerous for them. So let's talk about some of the things that are commonly around the house that can sometimes be deadly. First of all, chicken, those little bones are really bad for dogs.
Well, we want to make sure to never give dogs anything that's either greasy or fatty or spicy. These things can not only upset their stomach, but they can actually cause very serious conditions such as an inflammation of the pancreas.
Uh-oh, see, we have these spicy sausages, little bones there. Chocolate can be fatal for dogs, right?
Yeah, a lot of people may not know that chocolate's actually very poisonous to dogs, and unfortunately, dogs love chocolate just as much as we do. So not only would we never want to give our dog chocolate, you want to be very, very careful never to leave chocolate somewhere the dog could potentially reach it. They'll work very hard to get to it, so never on a low coffee table or anything like that where they could maybe jump up and get to it.
And they love to hear the crinkling noise.
And they like to eat the foil, which can also upset their tummies.
Right, see, look, I'm tempting you there, and I shouldn't be. And don't let the kids give them anything either.
Exactly, and never any bones. Any bone that a dog eats could get lodged in their esophagus or in their intestines. And as you said, the chicken bones can actually splinter, and that can get caught in their throat or even tear their intestine.
Oh, that doesn't sound very good, does it?
No, it's
By
terrible.
the way, Oliver and his friend Angel over there are up for adoption. We'll have more information on that coming up. In the meantime, I've heard in recent years about, poinsettias are so bad, but they're not as poisonous as some other plants.
Yes, actually, these guys are a lot worse. These holly berries, while they're very pretty, are actually very poisonous to not only pets, but also to children. And I actually very much want to focus on these lilies. Lilies are very beautiful. They're actually not in season right now, but a lot of people are decorating their homes. They may turn up in any kind of arrangement you may get, and people may not realize that they're very, very poisonous to cats. They'll actually shut down their kidneys, so if you have a cat, you would never want to have a lily in your home.
And I used to have a dog that would eat flowers, because he was like a beagle, a hound dog, who just lives with his nose, and anything that smelled at all interesting or possibly edible.
Cats love to chew on leaves, and so yeah, we definitely want to be careful about that.
All right, bright, sparkly ornaments. Oh, a cat would just love to play with that, wouldn't he?
Yes,
and
cats love to play with these long, stringy items like ribbon and yarn. And actually what can happen is that when they eat this, it can get caught in their intestine, and that can be very dangerous. A lot of times they need surgery. Cats are very attracted to tinsel. It's very sparkly and it looks very fun. Every year we have cats who come into the Berg Hospital who need surgery because they have tinsel lodged in their intestines.
All right, how about wrapping paper? When the Christmas is over and there's wrapping paper all over the living room. I know my dog would just love to run through it.
Well, they love to run through it, and actually what's even more worrisome are the shopping bags. We tend to have a lot of shopping bags all over the house, and actually animals can get their head caught right through that handle, and that can choke them. So I want to be careful to either cut those handles or put those bags away as soon as we're done with them.
Okay, and how about, well, yeah, here. Look, candles are not good either.
Candles
right?
can be a problem. Of course, you never want to put any type of a candle where a dog could either jump up, a cat could jump up, dog might wag their tail, knock the candles over and cause a burn or a fire. So I want to be very, very careful with candles.
And over here on the tree, now to a cat, this is a brand new deluxe.
Exactly.
Like, scratching post.
It's a wonderful, it's a tree, and what do cats do? They want to climb up the tree and they can knock it over. So as our friend from Home Depot was saying earlier, you want to make sure that your tree is on a very, very stable base that can't be easily tilted. It's also a good idea to actually anchor the tree using some kind of a wire or fishing line. You want to be very careful, once again, with any kind of electrical wires. Young animals, puppies and kittens, will chew on those electrical wires, for example, the Christmas lights, and they can burn their mouth or become electrocuted.
All right, let's get a close-up on beautiful Oliver here and little Angel over here. I'm just going to come over so you can get a good look at them. And there's the information if you would like to adopt either of these dogs or many of the others they have, or get any more information about pet safety. ASPCA .org is the web address. Oh, look. They're making fast friends. Maybe you could take them together if you can handle 2 dogs. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Happy and safe holidays
And you as
to
well.
all the pet owners. Jim, back to you.
All right, Jody.
This is CBS 2 News This Morning.
Thanks a lot, Michelle. And in this morning's Health Watch, how you can protect your pets from the winter weather. Our Dr. Sapna Parikh is here with some expert advice. We don't want to forget our favorite friends.
I know, and they're not really too different from us. And actually, it hasn't been too bad, but according to Audrey, the weather might be getting a little bit
worse. Nosedive.
It's been nice, though, so far. But when it does, in fact, get colder, here's the info on how you can look out for your favorite companion.
No fighting, no fighting.
Little Sadie is actually hoping the weather gets colder.
But she loves the snow. She buries her nose in it.
But the winter weather can also be a problem for both dogs and cats.
It's not just the absolute temperature that we're concerned about, it's also other factors that can contribute, like wind, rain, snow, sleet.
Dr. Louise Murray is a veterinarian at the ASPCA in Manhattan.
There are a lot of dogs around New York that have very short coats and are actually from warm climates. Some of the small dogs, like Chihuahuas and things like that, you know, their ancestors came from warm climates. So we'll see owners buying them little coats and sweaters, and it does seem to make a difference.
I bought little socks for her. I don't know if they'll really work, but we're going to give it a shot.
Protecting their paws from the ice, the salt, and the chemicals is important, although boots will often work better than socks.
There are lots of kinds of boots for dogs on the market. These are very nice. They fasten with a little Velcro strap, so you can tighten them so they'll stay on. They have a nice sturdy bottom.
In many ways, our pets are a lot like us. They shiver to keep warm, and they too are at risk for frostbite.
Animals have a lot more problems with frostbite on their ears, their feet, their tails, and actually the scrotum in a male animal. These areas are exposed to the temperatures more, and they're not as protected by fur.
Check with your vet for advice on food. Staying warm definitely uses extra calories, but only if your pet is outside and active.
On the other hand, we see animals who in the wintertime become very sedentary, just like us. So some animals can actually pack on a few pounds in the winter.
Just like we do. Now, for some reason, cats and dogs love antifreeze. Just as a side note, it tastes sweet to them, but it's extremely toxic. The ethylene glycol crystallizes and can destroy their kidneys, even if it's just a little bit. So you want to make sure you have that up and out of the way or cleaned off the floor if you do have a garage at home.
And actually, I think they have some antifreeze that doesn't have that in it. I had thought, or no, it's the non-toxic ice crystals to get rid of the ice on your sidewalk.
Maybe
because the salt can get into their pads.
And if it's just regular salt, if that's okay too, as long as you wipe off their paws when they come in. But I don't know about antifreeze. That is safe.
Right. No. You definitely can't. You can't have that stuff around if you're changing the antifreeze in your driveway, which none of us are doing. Now, and what about these little coats? Are they just decorative?
No, that was my big question too, because you see them walking around, Manhattan.
And you see some crazy high-end coats out there.
Some designer gear, but apparently for the little ones that don't have a lot of fur and don't have a lot of don't have a thick, heavy coat, it is actually protective and can help them in cold.
And what about the guys that we saw in the package, the little dogs that we saw in there? Are any of them available? Everybody always wants to know.
So we were at the ASPCA. Some of them are up for adoption. The white one with the pink, his name is actually Mr. Pink, with the pink around his eyes. He is up for adoption. Some of the other ones have been kind of designated already, and the cats are up for adoption as well.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day. Do you have yours with you? Well, a recent survey by Wellness Natural Pet Foods finds that while 48% of Americans wish they could bring their pets to work, only 12% are allowed to do so. So if you are part of that lucky few, here are some pet-etiquette workplace tips from Dr. Louise Murray, veterinarian consultant for Wellness Natural Pet Food. Dr. Murray, thanks for being with us. How fun to be able to take your dog to work. It doesn't seem to be catching on, though.
It is fun for people. That same survey showed that people felt that it improved their mood and reduced their stress. The pet owners, of course.
Right.
Obviously, when you're considering whether to take part in this perk, you want to first of all consider your dog.
Right.
Does your dog want to go to work? It's fun to bring your dog to work, but does your dog have the kind of personality that's going to enjoy it? You know, the car ride, or however the mode of transportation, being around a lot of new people, things like that you have to take into consideration.
I guess first you have to ask your boss, right? If it's okay.
Obviously, you have to make sure that your office is participating.
Right. No, that's, and also I guess a lot of people are in, little cubicles these days, right? So do you have to make sure that your pet doesn't wander into other people's cubicles?
Yeah, some people have an office, and if you do have an office, that's great. You can keep your dog in there and let people come in and visit if they do want to, interact with the dog. If you have a cubicle, kind of the same idea. You really have to respect boundaries. Your dog needs to stay in your cubicle area, and if people want to come say hi, that's fine, but don't let him wander.
You have to have a calm dog that doesn't need a lot of exercise during the day.
Yeah.
But you also, I guess, have to respect people's boundaries as well, correct? If they don't like pets, you have to be sure that they're not going to be subjected to yours, right?
Yeah, and for some people, it's even more a health issue. Some people might have allergies, and you have to think about that.
Right.
Some people might be actually scared of dogs. You want to be really careful that your dog is an ambassador for dogs.
Yes.
It makes people actually like dogs more after this day rather than the other.
What about a backup plan in case you show up with your dog and you think, oh, my dog's going to be great, and all of a sudden he starts acting up, or he or she starts acting up? You might not realize it.
So you do need a plan for that. Maybe your dog just needs to get outside for a walk and burn off some energy, and that can make a big difference. We always say that a tired dog is a good dog. But you may have wanted to figure out first if you'd be able to quickly get your dog home if it's not working out, so you're not in a stressful situation yourself all day.
What about if your dog is very nosy when it comes to lunches being discarded in the garbage?
And that's important too for everybody's dog that does take part in this. That there's a lot of food around most offices. If your office is anything like ours, and you don't want your dog to get into anything unfamiliar, get an upset stomach. That's not going to be any good for you on the ride home. So you probably want to talk with your office mates about being even more careful about how food and other type of food-related items are discarded on that day, and obviously keep your dog leashed.
Right.
Your dog shouldn't be running loose anyway.
No, and you should consider whether he will get along with other dogs, correct? Because maybe at home he's alone.
And that's a super important thing to think about, because if your dog doesn't get along with other dogs, it's not going to be pretty at the office, and once again, you want your dog to be an ambassador.
All great things to consider, Dr. Murray. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And finally, for the fourth area, we tested your pets. And let's join veterinarian Dr. Louise Murray. Welcome. Let's talk about pets. This is actually, we saw it in the package. It's very common that pet owners come to the clinic exhausted. So let me just highlight this. The fourth secret reason you may be exhausted is that you sleep with your pet in your bed. Yes. Now, we're going to talk about this because it turns out, and this has been studied, half of the people who sleep with pets in their bed report problems sleeping, including... Oh, you have that problem too? Yeah. I can just keep you up here by... We'll get an extra chair here, please. Where's Cindy? Cindy, come on up. And if you... how are you, Cindy? And if you don't mind, where's Ricky? Bring Ricky out. Come over here, Ricky. Come on over here. Here's the attack dog coming. This may be your culprit. Oh, Ricky's making a run for it.
Hi, Ricky.
All right. So, Cindy, how often does Ricky sleep? Yeah, you can come over here. Here, you can go in front of the table here. Go on up there. Are you the husband?
Yes.
What's your first name?
Frank.
Okay, Frank. Nice to meet you. Here, have a seat over there, Frank. Take comfort.
That was a treat.
All right, now, how often do you sleep with Ricky?
Every night.
Every night?
Every night.
Ricky's not a small pet.
No, I have a king-size bed.
Yeah, king-size pet. All right. Let me show you something. Come back over here with me a little bit. Look at that curve I'm going to put up there. This is a sleep study. We monitored your sleep. And I want you to... You see the total number up there? It says deep sleep, the green areas? Yeah. That's what you want? The amount of sleep you got was 4 hours and 18 minutes that night. You even realize you're being woken up as he moves around?
Yeah, he does. He wakes me up, but then I go back to sleep.
Doesn't work that way. Here's a picture of you doing it. Now watch. You don't just go back to sleep. You wake up, and when you wake up, you're jerked to a higher level. Up, he's up. He's up, back down, up, down. Every time that happens, you're taken out of that deep restorative sleep to a very light sleep. It doesn't give you the same kind of restoration that you need. So talk to me a little bit about this. What can she do?
All right, so for active pets like Ricky, it's very important for them to get lots of exercise during the daytime. We like to say that a tired dog is a good dog. So lots of exercise, particularly as the day goes on. Dogs are also very easily bored. So if they're bored, they're going to pester you and not let you rest. So we need to give them something to do. For example, we can feed them their meals stuffed into a Kong toy.
Go get 'em.
And that keeps them occupied so that you can get some sleep. And
She's occupied now.
Speaking of sleeping, of course, Cindy, you know that you're going to sleep better if Ricky has his own place to sleep. For Ricky, we did recommend crate training, and dogs do like having their own little safe haven. If the dog will sleep in their own bed, you can encourage them to do that. That would be best, and you'll get more sleep.
What do you think?
He loves it.
I knew it would work. I want to thank all my guests very much. Be right back.